Donald Trump is absolutely losing it this morning on Martin Luther King Day. No Martin Luther King proclamation, by the way, from Donald, but instead a different type of proclamation. We're learning that he sent a text message to the Norwegian Prime Minister threatening Norway for not supporting the United States invasion of Greenland. This is real. It is so utterly insane, even for Donald Trump, that people were like, can you please verify this? Well, we've received verification from the Norwegian Prime Minister, from Finland's Prime Minister. This is absolutely real. Here's what Donald Trump wrote. Dear Jonas, that's the Prime Minister of Norway, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Prize for having stopped 8 wars, plus I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant, but can now think about what is good and proper for the United States of America. Denmark cannot protect that land from Russia or China. And why do they have a right of ownership anyway? There are no written documents. It's only that a boat landed there hundreds of years ago. But we had boats landing there also. I have done more for NATO than any other person since its founding, and now NATO should do something for the United States. The world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland. Thank you, President DJT. So Donald Trump sent that in a text message to the Prime Minister of Norway. And then Donald Trump also wrote to all of the European ambassadors, and he had his National Security Committee send this to all the European ambassadors and say, Dear Ambassador, President Trump has asked the following message shared with Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Store be forwarded to, and then it has their name and their government's name right there. Now, again, as Donald Trump says, first off, like, why are you attacking Norway for the Nobel Peace Prize? The Nobel Peace Prize is an independent committee that happens to be in Norway. And then everything that Donald Trump says is just like absolutely false. And then he's going to say, well, we're doing this to stop Russia. Well, this morning, again, on Martin Luther King Day, where Donald Trump did not issue any proclamation recognizing Martin Luther King's accomplishments or anything about today's holiday. It's the first time in 40 plus years where a president did not acknowledge the day. Here is what Donald Trump instead did do a proclamation. Donald Trump invited the Russian President Vladimir Putin and the Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko to join his so-called Board of Peace to oversee Gaza and other areas. So what Donald Trump is doing is he's saying, if you give Donald Trump $1 billion, you get to join the Board of Peace, which it's not just about Gaza. It's also about Donald Trump saying that he's going to create another institution other than the United Nations, and he wants Russia to be a major part of it. Russia and Belarus joining Donald Trump's Board of Peace. And this has been confirmed by all the Putin's people. We have the letter that Donald Trump sent to Lukashenko right here. And you give Donald Trump $1 billion. He takes your $1 billion and he puts it into a Qatari account. That's where all this oil money apparently from Venezuela is going, not to the United States Treasury, but to an account in Qatar. And that's how Donald Trump is spending his morning. We then found out from the Prime Minister of Norway, what this was all about as well. The Prime Minister of Norway says, I can confirm that this is a text message that I received yesterday afternoon from Donald Trump. It came in response to a short text message from me to Donald Trump sent earlier on the same day on behalf of myself and the President of Finland, Alexander Stubb. In our message to Trump, we conveyed our position to his announced tariff increases against Norway, Finland, and a select other countries. We pointed to the need to de-escalate. So if you want to see like what actually triggered Donald Trump, this is the message from Stubb from Finland and from the Prime Minister of Norway. This is what triggered Donald Trump. Dear Mr. President, dear Donald, regarding transatlantic relations, regarding Greenland, Gaza, Ukraine, and your tariff announcement announcement yesterday. You know our position on these issues. You know our position on these issues. However, we believe that we should all work to calm the situation and de-escalate. So much is happening around us, and we need to stand together. We propose a call with you later today, with both of us or individually. Please give us a hint as to what you prefer. Best regards, Alex and Jonas. And in response to that message, Donald Trump wrote, "Because the Nobel Peace Prize was not awarded to me, I'm no longer going to focus on peace." And he goes, "We need to stop Russia, so I need to control all of Greenland." And then he invites Russia and Belarus to become on his board of peace. As I mentioned before, and as we reported on the MeidasTouch network, Donald Trump became the first president to skip the Martin Luther King Day proclamation. The proclamation and the day was first announced by Ronald Reagan. You see Ronald Reagan signing MLK Day into law in November 1983, and all presidents would sign this, from George H.W. Bush signing it in 1992. Donald Trump, no acknowledgement of Martin Luther King Day. And look, the American people right now on Martin Luther King Day absolutely despise Donald Trump and this vile regime. I mean, take a look at a state like North Carolina that Donald Trump won in 2024. Donald Trump's disapproval in North Carolina, based on the TIP poll, the TIPP poll, which is an A-rated poll, Trump's approval is only 39%. His disapproval is 53%. That's how underwater Donald Trump is in North Carolina. And you look at the current Senate race right there, the Democratic candidate and former Governor Cooper is beating Whatley 48% to 24%, a wipeout in that race. Again, a state that went to Trump in 2024. Now, as Jay and Keeve writes, and you could just take a look at some of the polling, Donald Trump now has the lowest approval rating in U.S. history at the 1-year mark, even worse than Nixon. Donald Trump's overall approval rating right now is like as somewhere in the of independence is like 29% to 30s. And his overall approval rating is like 38% right now. Look at Trump approval independence for January. Depending on the poll, it's 29%, 29%. You don't get worse than this.
You know what's easier than fixing a problem? Not having the problem in the first place. Your liver is one of those organs that you don't think about until you have to. Supporting it daily is one of those small things that can make a huge difference in how you feel overall, and that's where Dose comes in. Dose for your liver is a clinically backed liver health supplement. This isn't just another capsule or powder. Dose is a liquid supplement. It's taken in a daily 2-ounce shot, and it tastes like fresh squeezed orange juice. Here's why it matters. Your liver is your body's filter. It processes everything you consume and handles over 500 plus daily functions: energy production, digestion, fat metabolism, vitamin storage. When your liver is overworked, you feel it. Dose helps cleanse the liver of unwanted stressors that may be slowing your liver down, and it promotes daily liver function so that your liver can do its job. 0 sugar, 0 junk, 0 calories. And when you take Dose daily, you're going to reduce sluggishness, get rid of those midday crashes, support your metabolism, and even aid your daily digestion. Plus, this is the real deal. There are 2 double-blind placebo-controlled studies showing Dose's positive impact on liver enzyme levels. Are you ready to give your liver the support it deserves? Head to dosedaily.co/Meidas or enter Meidas to get 35% off your first subscription. Your body does so much for you. Let's do something for it. That's dosedaily.co/Meidas, MEIDAS, for 35% off your first month subscription.
And one of the things that independents and others people keep on discussing, not just the utter chaos, Trump's threats, Trump's invasions, Trump's wars around the world, which have been absolutely horrible, but the wars here in the United States as Trump unleashes his ICE Gestapo, the Trump invasions of Minneapolis, masked, armed people who are dressed in military fatigues, right, are invading our cities, disappearing people, killing people. In addition to Renee Nicole Good's murder, which the Department of Justice or Injustice refuses to investigate, ICE has now also announced its 6th confirmed detained death of 2026, and it's only January 18th. So by January 18th, ICE has killed 7 people, adding Renee Nicole Good. 6 people who were in detention centers by ICE died in these detention centers. And just every day there's more stories like this. Reuters capturing ICE breaking down a door, dragging a man out half naked into freezing cold St. Paul, Twin Cities. According to his sister-in-law, they returned him after realizing he's a naturalized U.S. citizen with no criminal record. Now, fortunately, Reuters was there to take the photo. That's how we know about this incident. But what about the countless, thousands, tens of thousands of other situations where there are no photographs at all? Now, one of the things that the Department of Justice says it will be focused on is potentially going after Don Lemon. Don Lemon, an independent reporter who's become an independent reporter. He was at a church in St. Paul where there were protests there because one of the main leaders of that church also is an ICE officer. So Don Lemon reported from the church while there were protests inside the church. And now the DOJ says they're prosecuting everybody, and they're specifically now looking at Don Lemon for his reporting. Here's how the DOJ said it earlier this morning. Play this clip.
Imagine you have a bank robbery that's being planned by a number of criminals. They're crossing state lines, they're using the wires, and then a podcaster says, well, let me embed myself in here and come along for the ride and live stream the crime. That would not be protected by the First Amendment. And so it is a crime to disrupt and harass and make people in a church or any house of worship feel unsafe in this country. And when you're part of that planning and show up and ride along and laugh outside about and make commentary outside about how disrupting and putting people in fear is literally part of protest and part of the plan, we are not reaching conclusions now. Of course, everybody is entitled to the presumption of innocence. But if I were giving advice to a journalist about this, which I have done in the past, I would say do not participate in a crime act.
And then MAGA Republicans sent their sycophants on the various networks this morning on Martin Luther King Day to talk about how maybe Donald Trump should send in 1,500 paratroopers from the Army to further invade Minneapolis, in addition to the 3,000 ICE and Border Patrol officers who are already there. Let's play this clip.
Congressman, I know you said we need to get back to basics as a country. How would it help ease tensions, though, or improve the treatment of law enforcement there on the ground if these troops were sent in? Would that just not make a bad thing even worse?
I don't think so. I think we've seen the deployment of federal troops before, whether it was in Los Angeles or other places, as a safety net, as someone that comes in, as a group that comes in, once again, in full support of local and federal law enforcement and peacefulness. We want to make sure that these radical left-wing protesters were going into churches. I felt so bad that lady got killed, but she hit that police officer, caused internal bleeding. That was just so wrong what she was doing. Whether you agree or disagree with law enforcement, you respect law enforcement and you listen to law enforcement. If an officer tells you to stop, you stop. Again, getting back to common sense basics, whether it's on the economy, whether it's on our ethics or our ethos, we've got to do that.
And what do you think your congressional role?
And I would be remiss in doing this video if I did not mention the DOJ's continued cover-up of the Epstein files. You know that we've been reporting on it every day, including we did a video on it this morning. But here's Pam Bondi talking about this was Pam Bondi when she was in the Senate being examined a few months back, and she refused to answer the basic questions. As we're now in day 31 or 32 of the DOJ's violation of the Epstein Transparency Act, right? They were supposed to turn over all files December 19th. I wanted to share this with you. Here, play this clip right here.
The rich, like the Americans are, see how greedy they are. They're even trying to shoot their friends or invade their friends just for greed. And we know that there's minerals and oils possibly in our underground, and that's worth so much more even than that. But even if we didn't have that, we would still not be bought. So everyone here knows about the Inuit in Alaska and all of the native tribes, Indians, American Indians who are there. Their land was taken from them and they haven't been treated that well in America. And we know that Trump is very much surrounding himself, at least with the white power people. And we are not white, as you can see. We are of color. And so we know our rights probably would be taken away. And we also know that we're very good as we are together.
And just, I want you to contrast that with two other things. One, this Greenlandic politician, Tilly Martinussen, who talks about, you don't understand us in Greenland. So you had Pam Bondi, as a leader in the DOJ. Compare that to a Greenlandic politician. Here, play this clip.
So who gave the order to flag records related to President Trump?
To flag records for President Trump?
To flag any records which included his name.
I'm not going to discuss anything about that with you, Senator.
Eventually, you're going to have to answer for your conduct in this. You won't do it today, but eventually you will. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Then I'll leave you with this. James Tallarico on Martin Luther King Day. Of course, he's the Democratic candidate running for Senate in Texas. Listen to what he says. Play it.
The worst politicians in America will be quoting Martin Luther King Jr. You can't quote "I have a dream" on MLK Day and then legislate against that dream every other day of the year. Dr. King described what he called the three evils: racism, poverty, and war. What would Dr. King say about 10 million children living in poverty in the wealthiest nation on earth? What would Dr. King say about a maternal mortality rate in Texas, which is 3 times higher for Black women? What would Dr. King say about a new American imperialism seeking to colonize Greenland and Venezuela? And what would Dr. King say about masked men in unmarked vehicles kidnapping people off of our streets? Dr. King dreamed of a world without racism, without poverty, without war. It's the dream that got him killed. And it's the dream that we must make a reality.
There you have it, folks. Hit subscribe. Help us get to 6 million. We appreciate you and have a great day.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.